Hi there. As a professor, one of my jobs is to help undergraduate students succeed. One of the simplest and most effective tips I tell students is that it is really important to go through the notes that they have taken during the day and review them on the same day. Not at the end of the week, and definitely not just before a midterm or final. By making this one simple change, one can drastically improve their academic performance. I am the first-year academic advisor for our department, and one of the most common reasons for failing, in addition to poor high school preparation and poor time management skills, is poor note-taking and review. Research has shown that one forgets much of the content of a lecture 24 hours after the lecture, so it is really important to do something with your notes on the day you took your lecture notes. I do want to mention as well that when you take notes, use paper and pen, and not just listen or type into a laptop. If you go to this link here, you will find a paper where the researchers expose students to a TED Talk, split the students into two groups, one that typed their notes into a laptop and the other group that uses paper and pen to take notes. It turns out that for just straight regurgitation of facts, both were equally effective. But when it came time to recalling high-level concepts, paper and pen won out significantly. This, of course, is really the key to learning. When you bring a laptop and type your notes, you are immediately putting yourself at a disadvantage compared to the students who use good old-fashioned pen and paper. Now, to take notes, I give my students something called the Cornell Notes. This is a very effective way of taking notes. You may end up using a bit more paper, but hey, it is worth it. Note that you're leaving space on the bottom for a summary, and then as well, space on the side for putting down possible questions that could be asked of the material you just took in the lecture. During the actual lecture, however, just use a portion of the paper here. I'll explain how to use the other two spaces to review your notes later in this video. Now, the most common complaint I get for not reviewing your notes the day of the lecture is, I have so much on my plate with assignments and such. I need to go work on problems. I need to write up my lab. I need to finish up my essay, etc., etc. However, from a time management standpoint, it is really incredibly inefficient to delay reviewing your notes. Suppose you decide to wait till the weekend until you're reviewing your notes. This is typically what happens with the average student. You take class notes on the Monday. You file them away, and then by Wednesday's lecture, you start to take notes again. However, things aren't making much sense. You blame it on the poor delivery by your professor, but the reality is you've lost the recollection and understanding of the Monday lecture. Thus, you fall behind and you're really just madly writing down stuff you don't understand. Then you put things away and then drag them out on the Friday's lecture, where the cycle continues, except Friday's lecture is even more confusing as you haven't absorbed the material from the last two lectures. Then, on the weekend, you finally dig into your notes, spend a frustrating couple of hours trying to recall and sort out the mess. Sound familiar? Let me suggest a better way to do this. On the Monday lecture, sometime as soon as you can that day, spend 15 minutes looking over your notes. Whatever you do, do not just blindly rewrite your notes as you review, or even worse, go through and highlight everything. Research has shown this to be very ineffective. Instead, for each page of your notes, read it over and then use this space here, the summary space, to put a brief, and I mean brief, summary of what that page is about. Put into as simple language as possible, as if you were teaching it to a 10-year-old. As well, think of a couple of possible questions about the material, preferably something that could be an exam question, and put it in this space. When you do this, you are forcing your brain to reprocess the information at a higher level. Because you're doing this as soon as possible after the lecture, it is fresh in your mind. Now, come the Wednesday lecture, have a quick glance at your summary page. Suddenly, the Wednesday lecture and the notes you are taking will make so much more sense. Again, do the summary and create questions as soon as possible after that lecture, and the Friday lecture will also magically be much more clear. In total, you have spent less than an hour during the week on your review, but you will have a much better understanding of the material and have spent much less time than trying to remember everything on the weekend. Research has shown that you will have a greater recall of this material for a longer period of time, so when it comes time for the final exam, much of the material will still be in your head, saving even more time trying to remember the course material. Finally, the summary sections you created and the sample questions are great aids to studying for the final exam. By the way, the reason you make the summary so that it is teachable to a 10-year-old is that there's a ton of research that demonstrates that the best way to learn is to teach. Essentially, with a summary section, you're teaching yourself about the material, but at a future date. In summary, by doing these small tricks, you will end up getting higher marks, spending less time studying, and you will understand and recall the material for a longer period of time. After all, isn't that really the real reason you're at university? To learn? I hope you'll try these techniques. Take care and good luck in your studies.